Hi everyone. We might start in just a minute. I think we've got quite a few people here with us, and we might we'll allow in some. We'll be letting in some latecomers sort of as we go. Just for those that have just joined us, we will also be recording this evening's info session for those that are unable to join us. We've also enabled the chat function, so if you have any questions, of course, you're so welcome just to say them in the Zoom, but if you feel more comfortable typing them in the chat, we've got the amazing Melinda Chapman who'll be sort of facilitating the session and making sure that everybody's questions are answered. Thanks, Mel. Okay, so we might begin the session now, and before we sort of properly start, I'd just like to take a moment just to acknowledge that Platform Arts and my co-workers Taryn Love and Melinda Chapman, and I think quite a few people who are in this session this evening, we are zooming in from the unceded lands of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to First Nations people here with us this evening in this session. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to everybody for joining us for this session this afternoon. It's really lovely to have so much interest and engagement in this round of EOIs. We've got 4 programs. We thought let's just consolidate everything into one giant EOI kind of schmozzle, and it's been really lovely. We're really excited to read all of the applications and to even start sort of reading some of the applications that are coming through already, and talking with lots of you about your projects and questions that you have about the process. We're hoping that tonight's session will just provide a little bit of clarity around the 4 different program streams, as well as just a little bit of information about sort of the application process, what we're looking for with applications across each stream, and then we'll have the second part of the session open for questions, because we find that's usually the most valuable time for everybody, just to be able to talk and ask your own questions and hear what other people have to say. Before we talk about Platform and the program, we'll just do some quick introductions for Platform staff that are here. So my name's Ilana Russell. I'm the Executive Director at Platform Arts. We're based on Wadawurrung country in Geelong. I work as a researcher, a curator and an arts administrator. I'm really excited about working in kind of liminal spaces, I guess, within institutions and in public space as well. I have a big sort of conversation-based practice, which usually operates in a sort of lab methodology. So I'm really excited about working with people from various creative disciplines and developing sort of long drawn out processes that may result in some beautiful work or may just result in a really wonderful conversation. So the lab program is kind of this beautiful extension, I guess, of that practice. And it's really lovely having those conversations with artists over extended periods through Platform. I'll introduce Taryn Love now, if you wanted to say a bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Taryn. I'm a proud Gunditj Mara Kirawurrung woman, so my mob's down southwest Victoria around Warrnambool Way. My arts practice is based in creative cultural expression. So a lot of what I do is really pays respect and acknowledges my family and the language and knowledge and culture that's been passed down through to me and what that means for me and expressing that in the here and now. So a lot of painting and weaving and possum skin burning and wood making. And I have been in the lab program. I'm in it right now as well for this year's round. And I've come through Platform in the lab program and now working as the curator of the YOOKAPA program, which has been just really awesome to be here at Platform Arts and doing that work and kind of evolving that as I grow in my own arts practice as well. So, yeah.
Thanks, Taryn. And Mel, did you want to say a bit about yourself as well?
Yes. Oh, hi, everyone. So I'm Melinda. I work in marketing and development at Platform Arts. So outside of that, I'm sort of come from a visual arts background, graphic design and 3D, and probably now though I've moved more into writing and performance making. So yeah, that's probably it.
Thanks, Mel. And a little bit about Platform Arts. I guess for those that might not be familiar with our organisation, and especially for those that are joining us from outside of Geelong or even outside of Victoria. Platform Arts, we were established in 1996 as the Courthouse Projects. We are based in regional Victoria, in Geelong, on Wadawurrung country. We were established as a youth arts organisation in a multi-art form sort of capacity. Over the years, we've sort of evolved the organisation. In 2019, we rebranded as Platform, and this year in 2022, it is our first year operating as a broader arts organisation without the youth designation. So while we, still retain a really strong commitment to working with young and emerging artists, we're really excited this year to be working with artists of all ages and stages of practice. And it's just really wonderful being able to expand kind of that remit, which I think is something that's, sort of quite necessary, I guess, where we operate in Geelong. But it's really exciting. I guess it means that we're able to work with a much broader cohort of artists and have some really wonderful kind of intergenerational connections, conversations and collaborations with artists that might be at the emerging stage of their practice, with artists that are super established. At Platform, we still work in that very multidisciplinary, multi-art form context. We work with creative practitioners across all disciplines to develop and sustain rigorous and critical artistic practice, and to test and present new experimental and contemporary works to both regional audiences here in Geelong, but also national and international audiences. Our artistic program is underpinned by a rigorous artist development program called Platform Lab. Platform Lab incorporates residencies, mentorship, professional development and artist-led training. Through Lab, we're really committed to developing artistic practice that will sustain practitioners throughout the lifetime of their career, and also foster a local arts ecology in Geelong that connects and contributes to a much broader kind of arts discourse that's, both national and internationally reaching. We have a really wonderful creative community here in Geelong, and it's great to see some local artists who are part of that community. It's been really wonderful through the Lab program over the last couple of years to be able to extend that community out into broader Victoria, wider Victoria, and also around the country and internationally. So this year, for 2023, our program will be working with artists based around Australia, and then we hope to continue to extend it to work with an international cohort of practitioners. I'll just give a bit of an overview about the Lab program, and then Taryn will speak to YOOKAPA. Mel will talk about our performance and public programs. So we'll just talk a bit generally about sort of what those 4 programs are, and then we'll chat a little bit broadly about the application, that sort of the EOI processes and what we might be looking for in applications, some questions that we've had over the last couple of years with doing these sorts of EOI processes. So we'll start with the Lab program, which next year will be its 4th iteration. So the first 2 years were funded through Creative Victoria's Strategic Investment Program, and both versions in 2020 and 2021 were delivered under lockdown, working with a small cohort of artists, very much in an online capacity. This year and next year, the program is funded through the Restart Investment to Sustain and Expand program, otherwise known as RISE. That's funded through a national arts funding program, and has been really wonderful to be able to do it this year in a broader in-person capacity. This year we're working with 11 artists and collectives from all around the country. There have been 3 streams that people are working in, which is a studio residency stream, a digital stream and a creative development. Next year we'll be kind of combining these, so it will just be one main stream of Lab. A really sort of key feature of this program is that it's artist development, artist-led, and really intensive kind of artist engagement. So we're really interested in working with a diverse sort of cohort of artists to develop their practice, to provide space for people to test ideas, to experiment with new methodologies, and potentially to develop, projects, outcomes that we can present at Platform, or we can support you to present elsewhere, either, based where you might be, anywhere around Australia, or developing works that could be presented within festival programs, within other venues or other locations. So it's a really sort of intensive kind of development / commissioning program, but it's really sort of one of the core remits, I guess, is to establish a really strong cohort of practitioners who meet regularly. So we'll be meeting sort of once a month throughout the program next year over a 12-month period, to have a lot of facilitated conversations, to have a lot of artist-led conversations. We bring the cohort together at various stages throughout the 12-month residency for intensives. So these intensive programs usually run across 4 days in a row. They're intensives because we're working together, sort of over that 4-day period all day. We invite in external sort of artists and provocateurs, basically people to sort of lead conversations, workshops, a series of sort of activities, I guess, that are designed to get people thinking about their practice and ways of working through various lenses, and, creative methodologies. So the program is designed really to sort of challenge and push your practice, to get you hopefully working outside of your comfort zone, to really sort of push you as practitioners, and expose you to a broader community of practice. So say, for instance, you're applying as a painter. We're really excited about what happens when you are then in conversation with someone that works as a sculptor and has a spatial practice. Where are the conversations and the connections, I guess, that are made in those moments. Of course, you don't have to be a painter or a sculptor. It can be really open. We're looking for people that might have, writing, research practice, people who work in the public realm, people who are dancers, choreographers, painters, visual artists. So it's really, really broad. There's no sort of remit to have a project that you're applying for, but we do ask people to think about what they would want to develop over those 12 months, whether it is, doing a deep dive into sort of research, or they're just wanting to, be part of a really connected creative community, whether they're wanting to work with a mentor to develop, an idea that they've been ruminating on, or if you do have a project, if it's like, I want to do this body of work and I want to do it through lab, of course, we would love to support you to develop that. Through the program, we connect people with mentors or collaborators who might work in kind of a fabrication capacity for you, or as a collaborative sort of co-deviser capacity. So where we provide financial support for you through the program through a $5,000 artist stipend. Then we provide additional funding for you to be able to engage other creatives to work with you throughout that 12-month period. I think that's kind of everything for lab. Taryn will talk about the YOOKAPA program, but also maybe before you talk about YOOKAPA, if there's anything you feel I've left out of lab, having been involved in 2020 as Career Collective and now as a individual practitioner, there was anything you wanted to talk about with the program or just your experiences?
Yeah, no, I think that was really great. And yeah, I love being part of the program. I think I came from a place of just creating artwork because that's something that I love, and culturally it was a way of connecting back to what my identity is and who I am. And I think kind of finding that pathway into lab was something that then made it more of a reality for me to kind of create more and be connected with kind of the creative community in all sorts of capacities, not just visual artists, which is what I'm mainly based in. And I think that one thing that I've really loved from being part of lab and being in this community is that a lot of the relationships and the conversations are ongoing. And even if, you might be coming in for one part, or then, you're in like that 2019 or you're in 2020, I feel like a lot of conversations are still happening and that community is still growing. And things are coming up still from when people were back in a program that I wasn't part of, or I was after them. And I think that's been really nice to be part of something that is ongoing, and you can always tap into that and connect with people for whatever sorts of reason. But yeah, I think personally for my practice, it's just been massive, honestly. I wouldn't be doing kind of the work that I'm doing now to support mob locally and community if it wasn't coming into this space and kind of realizing not only for kind of young emerging female artists that there is space, but especially as a First Nation person, that there are, arts orgs out there that are making space for mob to come in and genuinely be part of creating and sharing and part of these conversations. So yeah.
Lovely. And such a good segue into YOOKAPA.
Yeah. YOOKAPA. It's the just newly launched First Nation creative program. And creating this came from a lot of the conversations that were happening earlier this year when I co-curated a show called Still Here Now, which was a First Nations group show celebrating mob who were just working and creating locally, either on water, on country, connected to or surrounding. And from that show, what we were all kind of the big thing that came from it, one was just like how amazing and excellent black fellas here locally are creating, and where are the spaces for us to share more of this and for us to go and kind of have these spaces to work genuinely and culturally appropriately develop and share our work. And that kind of led into me doing some work with Platform and creating YOOKAPA. And YOOKAPA is Kire Wurrung, which is my family's mother tongue for give and receive. It's not so much a translation into an exact word, but more a method of practice or a framework for approaching or looking at something about reciprocal relationships and giving and receiving and that kind of exchange. And I think it really celebrates what it means for me to be part of the Black community in not only my relationship to other Black fellas, but to country and to kin, and to knowledge and to elders and that sort of thing. And, we've been having lots of really big, deep and ongoing conversations with local traditional owners and like my family and aunties who have permission around language in getting permission to use YOOKAPA as a title for this program, but more not to say what it is in general, to box it in, but more to like give it life and show that what it could be in the sense. And that kind of goes on to say that it's not a fixed program, but it's more kind of a framework or a creative development and just really connecting First Nation artists who are local and creating in whatever sense that looks like, and supporting the work that they already do. Because I think one big thing about our show earlier this year, Still Here Now, was recognising First Nation artists locally, as the original storytellers, original artists and creators and dancers and performers, and acknowledging that in the YOOKAPA program, there's many diverse ways that mob have knowledge and get knowledge and give knowledge. So I think it was kind of, just being there to support First Nations creatives and have that space to then talk about what, community needs and responding to that and just building from there. So evolving from that. And I'm just having a quick look at seeing if I missed anything, but that we've got a strong all Black female advisory board as well, full of community leaders and aunties and elders that I'm really proud to be working with and really honoured to have their guidance and knowledge in supporting this program. And really for mob wanting to apply, it's really just introduce yourself and your practice. And whatever you are doing or you're thinking of or you're wanting to do, it's really just, come into the space, let's get connected and see what we can do and what we can do together. So that's YOOKAPA.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Mel, did you want to have a chat about the performance and public programs?
Yep, sure. So I'll start with performance program. So with our performance program, we actually present quite a range of artists. So we can have programming might be some local community performance makers. It might be toured works. We also have works presented by lab artists, so outcomes from the lab development. And so we actually serve quite a broad community of artists. But one thing I guess that sort of brings it all together is that we really champion original and contemporary work. So we really like to support the riskier work that's being made. And so some of that will come through, the lab, and sometimes we'll actually tour a work. So it might be some Melbourne performance makers, or it might be regional. So we also encourage multidisciplinary. You can be a media artist, musicians. You can, oh yeah, the sky's the limit, really. What else is there? Oh yeah, part of our performance is also, it's a great way to develop connections with our peer organisations. So obviously we're in the arts precinct. We have relationships with Geelong Arts Centre. We have relationships with festivals and arts orgs in Melbourne and statewide. And so being part of our performance program is a great way to see if we can help you further with opportunities beyond platform. So Alana, I don't know if you want to add anything to the performance side. Oh, I haven't mentioned ensemble as an example.
Yeah, we have sort of an in-house, I guess, company that's called our ensemble group. They're called Infinity, and they have been working together since 2020. They're a group of sort of young artists. They vary in ages from 11 to 22. Again, we'll be opening that up more broadly next year, which will be really exciting to see kind of what comes out of a more intergenerational kind of collaborations. They had their first work was commissioned and presented as part of the Substations digital program in 2020. And this year they had their first major work commissioned by Rising Festival and presented in their June festival program this year. So that's, you know, a huge kind of amount of growth for a fairly sort of new ensemble group, but they work in a really sort of experimental capacity. They're led by an amazing artist and director, Jackson Castiglione, who's part of an artist collective group called Field Theory, based in Melbourne and sort of working nationally. So there's opportunities to sort of collaborate with that collective, but also for any artist, you know, it's working with independent artists, collectives, theatre companies, you know, however you kind of work. It could be either in sort of a creative development capacity, so it could just be providing space just to, you know, work in a black box theatre space. We have a 128 capacity performance space at Platform, as well as a rehearsal space and individual studios. So it could just be sort of space to workshop ideas or to devise with a small group, or it could be if you've got a project sort of ready to go and you need space to rehearse. It might be that you have a finished work and you're looking for touring partners, or you're looking for sort of people to commission or present works. We do, as Mel mentioned, we do partner with organisations and festivals in Melbourne and nationally to look at co-commissioning models. So it just allows us to provide sort of more funding to performance-based artists to develop a major work and then present that work both at Platform Arts in Geelong and at other locations around the state or nationally. So it's really lovely to be able to offer kind of that additional funding and multiple touring support for people. Or it could just be, yeah, as I said, just as simple as space to rehearse and create. And just something to mention, you know, outside of this program, Platform Arts, you know, one thing we operate out of an old courthouse building. It's a big, glorious, ramshackle building, and we've got lots of space. So if you ever need, you know, just space to work, studio space, you know, you want to sort of be in a venue, then we are always really supportive of that, and we'll always provide our spaces in kind for artists, so there'll never be kind of a charge associated with it. So please always let us know, just in general, if you ever need space here. Yeah, keep going, Mel, sorry.
Yeah, and so with our public program, I guess in a similar way, it's quite diverse. It ranges from smaller projects such as workshops, artist talks. We often have public programs associated with our gallery program, where exhibiting artists will also conduct workshops and talks. And that's often self-led as well. Like, we're not very prescriptive about how what artists choose to do. We're open to your ideas. And so we have artist-led events and projects, and then we also have more of a structured professional development sessions that cover important topics around sustainable arts careers. So that's part of the lab. So historically, artists that have come through our programs have often collaborated. So it's a bit of a crossover with the performance structure as well. So artists often collaborate with Platform Arts and Pew Orgs on public art events such as White Night and Geelong After Dark. We've often partnered with festivals like Geelong Pride Film Festival. We also have devised our own larger, like major public events such as Energetical, which was a symposium that focused on the value, labour and intergenerational knowledge of female identifying artists and art workers living across regional Victoria, in which that brought quite a large audience and a group of speakers from art centres across Western Victoria and Eastern Victoria, which is great. So we have a sort of large scale, but we also have smaller scale events where, say, smaller groups where artists might develop workshops for themselves on-site and off-site that offer more of an organic and exploratory arts experience. So I guess, Alana, if you wanted to add anything to what that encompasses, because it's quite broad.
Yeah, I think it is super broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
As an example, just last week or 2 weeks ago, one of our current lab artists, Laurie Oxenford, who's part of a Gold Coast collective called Public Palace, was just in Geelong doing a public program that was collecting anthropic rocks, so concrete rocks around Geelong. So, you know, these beautiful random public programs. It can be workshops, it can be walks. We've got another current lab artist, Mel Dearson, who is doing a performance lecture as part of their exhibition in late September, October at Platform. So it can really be, you know, whatever you're thinking. It doesn't have to be specifically a workshop or an artist talk. We're looking for things that, you know, it could be really intimate, it could be quite large in scale. And also, as Mel said, just, I guess, really reiterating across the whole board, so not just in public programs, but through lab, through performance, public programs, through YOOKAPA, and just really generally platform arts. We work in that really collaborative capacity. So all of our programs kind of cross over, and we really try to connect artists. You know, if you're working in a performance context and you're developing a work for our theatre space, we'll still be looking for ways to, you know, bring in an artist who we think, oh, you would love to chat to this person, or maybe you guys could collaborate, or, you know, just going and seeing, you know, what your peers, I guess, are developing. So that kind of drives everything we do. It's just really forming those strong kind of creative ecologies of practitioners that don't necessarily have to all be based in Geelong. And it's really lovely to be building it sort of, you know, locally and then expanding out, and looking at these beautiful connections that, you know, like Taryn mentioned, from their first involvement in the lab program in 2020, like a lot of those conversations are still developing today, and also outcomes are developing. So like we said, we don't necessarily require like a project that you're pitching to us. It could just be something that evolves over a period of conversation, and that might emerge in 2 or 3 years' time. That would be like, yes, let's work with you to produce it, or we'll commission it. We'll look at how we could fund it or support it in some way, or find people that can fund and support it. Mel also mentioned briefly our professional development program. So next year, all participants across YOOKAPA Lab, performance, public programs, and just general platform artists are invited to be part of our professional development program, which is facilitated by an amazing Melbourne-based producing company called Bureau of Works. So they invite every month an experienced curator, arts worker, practitioner, somebody who's kind of leading, I guess, in that arts sort of management space, I guess, just to talk about their practice, to talk about, you know, how what they do sort of connects to a broader sort of artistic discourse locally. They provide tips, I guess, for artists, you know, whether it's related to curatorial practice, whether it could be about sort of negotiating contracts, writing budgets, applying for funding programs. It's really broad and also quite responsive to the needs of artists that we're working with. So that program will run once a month over the 12-month period in 2023. And we really invite artists to put forward sort of suggestions for topics that they would like covered. And then we work with Bureau of Works to think of amazing facilitators to lead those sessions. We also have, you know, in addition to the intensive for lab artists, there are, you know, we'll have sort of group feasts and points where we try and bring everybody across all the programs together, just so we can form that really lovely sort of community of practice. And we also have a platform, a sort of monthly exhibition program. So we've got exhibition openings, we have lots of performances, music events. So there's lots happening here that we would love for you to be part of and yeah, contribute to and attend. So we'll share all of that info with you. Before we open up to questions, we might just quickly talk about, I guess, the application process. So as I mentioned, we've opened up all 4 streams in kind of one big application. So when you're filling out the form, you can just nominate if there is one specific stream that you would like to apply for, or you could also state, you know, if you are happy to be considered for all of them. Just noting though that for YOOKAPA, it is open specifically to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists living and working in Australia, or Victoria.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry,
yeah.
Victoria. But otherwise, you know, if you're happy to be considered for the lab program and also for the performance or public programs, please let us know, because then we'll kind of assess based on that. With assessment, the initial shortlist will be done through Platform Arts staff, and then we invite 2 external peer assessors to review the shortlist, and we'll select the final cohort. We will publish details of who those external assessors are. And we also provide some feedback for people that weren't successful with their application. But we're really happy to have phone calls with people who wanted to talk through anything about their application for the rest of this month, or even just have chats with people afterwards, just in case your application wasn't successful. But like I mentioned, even if it wasn't successful in this round, we encourage you to apply again for the next round, or also just to get in touch with us if there's any way we could support you through use of space, or through programming you in our gallery space, or just through working with you in a more generalised capacity. We're really hoping to receive submissions from artists to develop projects or think through ideas, or just kind of have, you know, some conceptual sort of concept, I guess, that is ambitious, that has a strong contemporary currency, and that, you know, will hopefully push you into new ways of working and also collaborating with peers. I can't, I guess, emphasize enough, like, that a really key part of the program is that collaboration. So we're really wanting people that are open to collaboration. If you are just needing a studio space to work really independently, then this might not be the program for you through Lab. Or, you know, if you're just sort of wanting a space to just rehearse a show, then maybe you just pitch that for their performance program. But for Lab and for YOOKAPA, definitely, they're very much rooted in that sort of collaboration. So that's just something that we'd really love you, I guess, to emphasize and to describe, and tell us about, you know, how you might approach that in the application. As an organisation, we'll provide sort of producing support to help realise a project that you might want to develop, or just anything that sort of comes out of your engagement with us over, you know, the 12 months of Lab and YOOKAPA, or a shorter engagement potentially for public programs and performance. So we will support with, you know, in-kind use of space, with producing and curatorial support, with technical support. So we've got some really fantastic experienced technicians if you need any help with lighting, sound, or any other sort of element that you need that more professional expertise for. Also with marketing and promotion. So if you are developing an actual project that might be a ticketed event or might be a public outcome, then we will run sort of a marketing campaign to promote that, and also to bring in sort of an audience for any works. As I said, they don't necessarily have to be, you don't have to be proposing a resolved project or idea, but we do work with artists through the performance program, through Lab and through YOOKAPA potentially, to just think about how we could look at some sort of like development preview or showing. So showing works in development. So you have the opportunity to just test sort of ideas with either a really small invited group of peers or a, you know, group of industry, sort of industry representatives, or if you wanted to do a big formal ticketing event, then of course we'll support that as well. Is there anything that I've missed, Mel or Taryn, about application processes, or should we open up to questions? Yeah, I think pretty good. Yeah. If anyone had questions, please feel free just to say them, just unmute and we can chat, or if you want to, if you feel more comfortable just typing it in the chat, that's totally fine as well. But I think there'll be a lot more that will emerge, I guess, from the questions. So yeah, please, anything that you just want more clarity about, anything that you're unsure of, any questions, now is the time. Let's talk about them. I think there's one already.
Yeah, there's just one there. Do you want me to read it?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Mel.
So Fanez wants to know if, I would like to know, for the residency, do you have to move to Platform Arts if you are not based in Victoria?
No, so we will run it as a combination of online and in person. So we will provide a travel and accommodation stipend for artists to participate in the intensive periods. So those 4-day kind of facilitated intensives, will support artists from wherever they are around Australia to travel to and stay in Geelong for that period. The rest of the time we will meet monthly online over Zoom. And the way that we work with interstate artists this year is with our Public Palace Collective, we're working with them to develop outcomes that can be shown in Gold Coast where they're based, but also applying for funding to bring them out to Geelong to do public programs with us. So it's really a combination, like if you're based outside of Victoria, we'll bring you to Geelong for certain programs, and then depending on whatever you're wanting to develop, it might be something that is presented wherever you are in the country, or it might be a festival that you want to, you know, develop a work for, and we'll kind of work with you to help facilitate that outcome. Or if it will be something that you really want to present in Geelong, then we'll work to find additional funding. So it's a really big part of the programs in general, so not just with Lab, but with performance, public program with YOOKAPA. We write a lot of funding applications. It's something that, you know, it's a language I guess you have to be quite well versed in as an independent artist or an arts organisation working in the non-profit sector. So we work with a lot of artists to try and get additional funding to help realise their projects. We recognise that $5,000 through Lab, or amounts that we're able to provide artists for other programs, it's not a huge amount of money. So we will always try and increase sort of opportunities for funding to further develop works.
Okay, so next, Kaylee wants to know, do you need to have a current portfolio to attach for the application?
I think if we can all answer this one. So it depends on the program. It's always great if you've got any evidence of works that you've developed, just to show those, so we can get, I guess, a sense of the way that you work or what you might be wanting to do through our platform. You don't have to like worry about having a super fancy folio of works. It could just be a link to Instagram or to a website, or it could just be, you know, 5 images of works. I think with YOOKAPA, you've got for how people sort of apply to be part of it. Do they need?
Yeah, it can really, as Alana said, like very open, very like not have to have, you know, a really fancy or proper thing put together, but even, you know, coming in and having a conversation or a conversation over Zoom or online, like, yeah, just talking about your practice and what you're interested in and that sort of thing. Like it's pretty open to how you want to present your work and your ideas and that sort of thing. And yeah, kind of just going from there.
And with the program as well, you don't necessarily have to have examples of what you've done in the past. If you're saying, I want to do a workshop or I want to do a walk, you don't necessarily have to back that up with other things that you've done of a similar nature. So it all kind of depends on the stream.
Great. So next question from Joy Lee. Are the numbers for each program stream capped for 2023? And if so, what are they?
So some of them are. So for lab, because we pay a $5,000 stipend to participating artists, we will be accepting positions for 8 artists or collectives. So it could be a collective that is made up of 2 or more people. It will be still a set fee for that collective of $5,000. So there'll be 8 positions for lab. For YOOKAPA,
it's open, so there's no limit to how many people can be part of YOOKAPA, and depending on how we engage with artists is case by case. So it could be like, if you're really looking for a space or you're just wanting to connect with other First Nation artists, yeah, so it's open and no limited numbers for YOOKAPA.
And for performance and public program, again, that's really open. If we're unable to support it in 2023, then we'll look at how we could support it in 2024. Or if it's something that we can't do through platform, we'll try and connect you with other spaces that could potentially support works in development or public programs, but there's no cap on participation for those programs.
Great. So Nicholas has asked, just wondering whether Platform Arts has space to present outdoor performance works and activations.
Yes, we get really excited about outdoor works and public works. So in our building, in the old courthouse building in Geelong, we don't have a huge amount of sort of outdoor space. We have a small courtyard and a laneway. But we do work closely with the City of Greater Geelong Council and other organisations like Deakin University and other sort of creative organisations and spaces to work on sort of public outcomes in public spaces. So if it's not something that we would have here in our building or, on the site of our building, then we could look at other sites and then negotiate like permits and permissions with council or other kind of lease or property owners. But there are some glorious spaces. And I think Geelong's a really exciting city. There's so many sort of former industrial spaces in the city, in North Geelong, kind of just outside of the city. So there are some really glorious sites for artists to explore and respond to, and we can definitely help to facilitate that.
Right. And so Jono Dredge is also asking, how many intensives are there throughout the year? And what sort of hours are they?
So we have 2 intensives to kind of bookend the program. So the first will occur usually in early March and the second will be late October, early November. They go for 4 days and we kind of split them into 2 different sessions. So it'll be 10 till 12, then we'll have a shared lunch, and then 1 till 3. And then we might, grab a drink or have like a group dinner or something after. So it is, that kind of effectively the whole day, but it starts a bit later to support anybody that might be traveling from outside of Geelong, but within Victoria. And we do encourage people to attend all sessions over that 4-day period. But of course, we understand that everyone has lives and jobs and commitments. So it's not, you must attend everything to be part of the program, but it is really encouraged. And we will also ask, if you do have commitment to be part of those intensives when we're sort of considering applications. We'll sort of workshop the exact dates with the artists once they've been selected. So you'll have the opportunity to suggest periods that work better for you.
Great. And Lazarus has got 2 separate projects. Is there a limit on applications you can submit?
No, not at all. You can put in more than one application, or to make it easier for you, you could just potentially roll them into the one application and say, you know, you could even say, I'm just looking at your question, a gallery showing and a performance project. You could just put them into the one application and just say you would like to have, you know, an exhibition and performance sort of program, just to save you all of the work of doing two separate ones. And also you could say, you know, if you think that you could select performance program potentially, as well as public program, or, you know, lab, you could just select everything. If you think that whatever project you might want to develop could be suited to a specific stream.
Great. And Tom is curious about the technical help that was mentioned. Does it include equipment hire such as cameras?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd probably recommend, and actually we can pop it in the chat. Mel, would you maybe be able to just pop in the chat the link to our venue hire page? So we've got an amount of sort of in-house technical equipment that's mostly in our performance space. We do have some equipment that could be taken off-site, but Mel will pop that link in just so you can see kind of like our house rig in the performance space, projectors and setups in other spaces, and then just whatever external equipment we have. The technical help is through sort of our in-house technician. We also work with external tech companies called Bellarine AV, who are great. So we provide for artists that are doing some performance programs or projects, or that just want to sort of experiment with more like digital technical elements of their work. We can just organise time for you to just work with our in-house tech and just, yeah, sort of try and experiment things. It will mostly be situated in our performance space. We don't really have equipment like cameras per se, but we do have a great relationship with the Geelong Tech, which is an amazing kind of state-of-the-art facility just around the corner from us, and they're really supportive of artists using their spaces in the afternoons as, you know, sort of in-kind support. So we could connect you with that group, and then you could use their amazing kind of equipment and facilities.
Great. And so Mira would like some examples on how we can encourage collaboration in the lab cohort for a work in development if we are selected.
We could answer this, I guess, through YOOKAPA and through lab, because I think YOOKAPA will be a lot of that sort of collaboration too. But I think it's talking about sort of, you know, in describing why you want to be part of the program. It could just be saying, you know, what you're interested in sort of with, you know, like with working with a broader community of practitioners. If you have a project that it might be quite specific, like I would really love to work with another artist through platform that might be working in, you know, like a sound kind of art capacity. So, you know, you're welcome to be that descriptive if you have that level of detail already known about your project. Or if it's more just generally, I guess it's just talking to why you're interested in collaborating with other people, how you think it might support your practice. We had a really great application from an artist who's part of the program this year who had recently moved to Geelong, and they were just saying, you know, I really just want to meet local practitioners and just see what, you know, just have conversations and see what people are working on and look at how we could, you know, develop projects and things together. And it was just really clear. It's like, fantastic, that's it. We can definitely support that. And they became an artist through the program. So it can just be as simple as just kind of, you know, describing, like, I guess, why you're interested in collaborating, or if there's a project, then I guess outlining specifically how collaboration would benefit the project, I guess, in developing. And also if it's not something that we, you know, if you're like, I really love to work with a projection artist, and if we don't have a projection artist that's part of any of our current programs at the moment, then we can connect you with the amazing people at the Centre for Projection Art who we work with really closely. So, you know, we have like it's all about like how we can expand that community of practice through platform, but also broadly sort of out around, you know, in Geelong, in the state. There are some really amazing artist collectives locally. There's the Hue and Cry Collective. I think we've got a representative from there, John O'Dredge. They've got amazing local artists that are working across really diverse disciplines. So it's also connecting you with that incredible sort of studio cohort there as well. I hope that answers your question, Mira. Cool. Were there any other questions people wanted to say them, or yeah, still keep typing in the chat? Is there any, like, did people want us to speak a little bit more with a bit more detail about any element of the programs or the application process, or is it all hopefully making a bit of sense? Cool. Great, that's good. No feedback is good feedback. I think with the application, we're really, you know, I guess one like kind of like application writing 101 is just to be really like clear and simple with your language. Like just talk about, I guess it's always just thinking about why you want to be part of it and just articulating it, and also how we could help you, what you would want to bring to it, why you want to work with other people, also why you would want to be working with a Geelong-based organisation. If you're based in Geelong, that's fantastic, talk to that. If you're based elsewhere, why are you wanting to do something here in Geelong? Is it something, you know, you're interested in doing a site responsive work around the city? It's connecting with artists who are based locally. It could be really nice just, I guess, to think about kind of where we're located geographically and how that could support your practice. And Farners has another question about timeline. So for the timeline, thanks, Lazarus. For the timeline, so we will be, I think applications close on the 3rd of October, I think. I'm sorry if that's a day or two off. But we will sort of spend that month assessing. So we'll do the initial sort of in-house shortlist, and then we'll be working with external assessors. For YOOKAPA as well, that will involve potentially involving the advisory board in looking over those applications as well. And then we will notify all applicants in November. We don't have exact dates because when we do set dates, we always end up going over them. So we'll just say, you know, in November, we will be in touch with everybody. And then we will announce publicly in December. And it will be, you know, everything will commence in January or February or whenever it will be commencing in 2023. But people will find out by November. Just can't say exactly which date.
So Alana, I sort of have a question prompt for the application process. Just mainly because each iteration of Lab, we've had so many fantastic applications and we can't pick everybody. And I was just wondering if you could chat about what it makes a really compelling application in terms of, because we just have so many great applications and projects, but what would you say are great tips for making a really compelling application?
Yeah, I think with the lab program, and this applies as well to the performance and to the public programs, that we're really excited and really hoping to hear from artists that I guess are working in that kind of contemporary and experimental space. And when we say that, you know, I think a lot of people are like, well, what is experimental practice? Like, it's not, you know, working with like high tech and, you know, digital elements and lasers and the like, you know, experimental can just be just a different non-traditional way, I guess, of doing things. So, you know, when someone was talking about projects that could be presented in a public capacity, we're really excited about works that are outside of like the white cube of the gallery space or outside of a theatre space, or works that I guess would really benefit from 12 months of development through a program. So if you are just, you know, wanting to like record an album or to maybe like play, you know, do music performances, we will be developing a music specific program because there are some amazing local musicians here that we'd love to support through that. But I guess it's thinking about how, you know, how we could support you through an extended period of time. So having an idea that you are really excited to just develop or experiment with, and that you really clearly articulate how we could support you to do that. I think I mentioned earlier, you know, if you are just sort of wanting a studio space or just, you know, a $5,000 artist fee just to do kind of an exhibition and then present it, maybe it would be best suited when we have our gallery EOIs to just put in an application for that. But it might not be super strong for the lab program because we're like, I don't know how, you know, 12 months could potentially support that. You might just need a studio space and just, you know, some money to put on an exhibition. So I guess it's just kind of articulating, you know, why the program would support you. And because that's what we're really wanting. We're wanting to support artists. And so I guess it's people that can convey that really clearly. They definitely stand out. And, you know, be like ambitious with your projects. Like you'll have a whole organization of experienced arts workers here to support you. So be as ambitious and as wild as possible. You know, can go big with ideas. You don't have to do, you know, some major blockbuster sort of project, but, you know, just think about the support that you'll have through the organization, which often is a real luxury to independent artists, you know, who have to do everything on your own and often with like zero or little funding. So just think about, you know, how you could use all of our like resources through our organization and our building, and also through the staff and, you know, the team that will be working with you, and through the other artists as well. Cool. All right. If there's any other
question here.
Oh, age limit.
Yeah.
No age limit. Oh, I think it's under 16. I think, was that our age limit?
Yeah, 16 and up.
Yeah, but no upper level, just all the way, which is exciting. And if there's any other questions that you think of or anything that you just wanted to chat through, you've got a few more weeks until applications close. So you're welcome to give us a call or to send us an email. And we'll also just share the info session online as well if there's anything you wanted to revisit. But otherwise, we're so excited to read your applications. And also, you know, for those of you that haven't come across Platform Arts before, you know that we exist now. And like I said, any ideas that you have or any way that you might want to engage with us, we are always so open to hearing from you and to having you visit. Like if you're ever down Geelong way, or if you're based in Geelong, just come in and say hi. We've always got exhibitions open, things to see, people to chat to. So we hope to see you all in some capacity. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your night. And thanks, Mel and Taryn, for helping out. All right. Thanks. Bye.